Hey guys, Thomas Ray here from Audio Unity Group, and today I'm going to talk to you about 4 differences between mixing and mastering. So the difference number 1 is workflow. So how do we actually approach mixing and how we do approach mastering? So during the mixing stage, we work on the multiple files, multiple tracks. So let's say 5, 6, 8, 10 tracks for the vocals, drums, bass, guitars, etc. Where during the mastering stage, we only work on the one stereo file. So for example, if I sit down to the mastering process, I only have one stereo file with all the vocals, instruments, everything bounced into one WAV file, and then I can proceed with my mastering. Well, during the mixing stage, when you sit down to the project, you probably have about 20, 30, 50, 100 files, and this is how you work on them. Now, this is the example of mastering process, and this is the example of mixing process. As you can see, the workflow looked completely different. Super complicated in the mixing stage and pretty simple on the mastering stage. The second difference between mixing and mastering is the gear. The plugins or the hardware, whatever you use, is just a different way to use those effects. Now, during the mixing process, you'll probably push your compressor pretty hard, let's say on the bass or on the drums. Well, during the mastering stage, you would use the same or a similar compressor, but you would use it completely differently. So in the mixing, you would push ratio pretty high threshold, etc. But during the mastering stage, you would mostly use it as a glue compressor. You know, you want to glue everything together. Don't push the threshold so high. Keep the pretty low ratio, just to keep the natural sound of the song. During the mixing, you want to change the elements of the songs, right? You want to affect them. During the mastering, you would use the same compressor but a bit differently. You would not push the threshold so high, you would keep the ratio pretty low, just to glue everything together, to not change the actual sound of the song. During the mixing stage, you will definitely want to change the sound of the certain tracks, but during the mastering stage, you kind of want to just get the best bits out of the song and glue them together using the compressor. Another gear that you would use differently in mixing and mastering is EQ. During the mixing stage, you would EQ 2 to 3 dB at a certain frequency, let's say vocals at the 1K. Well, during the mastering stage, you would never add that much boost to the frequency. The reason being, during the mastering stage, we work on the whole song, right? So if we add 2 to 3 dB at the 1K, that would not only affect the vocals, that would affect the vocals, keys, guitars, etc. You know, you don't want to change the color of the song that much by adding so much value into your EQing process. Well, during the mixing stage, you'll definitely do that because you want to just shape the certain sound when you work on your mix. The third difference between mixing and mastering would be the mindset. What I mean by mindset? See, when you sit down to your mixing process, your mixing session, you know you're going to spend a lot of time tweaking, compressing, automation, all that kind of stuff. Well, during the mastering stage, you have to be really decisive. You have to sit down and know, like, right, I'll have half an hour, 40 minutes to master the song. Why I'm saying about the mindset? See, during the mixing stage, you spend hours and hours and hours trying to figure out what would be the best way to glue things together in the mixing process. But during the mastering stage, you don't really have those options, right? You can't really go back to the mix and change the, let's say, the volume of the drums or the compressor settings or whatever, you know. So you have to, during the mastering stage, you basically work in what you have. We have what's already in front of you. That's why, you know, when I do my mastering, it takes me tops 40 minutes, half an hour to 40 minutes for one song, because I know during that time I should be done. If I can't finish the track within that 40 minutes, I know there is something wrong with either the mix or with me on that day, which can always happen, you know. When you sit down to your mix, right? When you sit down to your mix and you think you've finished, you have to finish it off before you start mastering, right? So that's another mindset thing. Finish your mix. Make sure you're happy with the balance of the vocals, balance with the drums, and export it and put it on the side, right? Don't touch it for, let's say, a week. and then sit down to do your mastering. Now, see the time, the 7 days, 7-8 days, is important time scale. During that time, during the break between that track to the stage when you're going to get the master, and I assume you will master yourself, you have to give your brain a rest. You have to rest your ears, you have to rest your brain, you have to forget about all the small nuances that you found during the mixing stage, and just focus on mastering. What I would also advise when you exporting your final mix down, export in 3 different ways, right? So make the original export with all the balance, all the vocals balanced properly, the way you like it. But also do another bounce with vocals plus 1 dB as a group. So all the vocals, group them together and give 1.5 dB boost. That'll be second export. And the third export would be same group of vocals at minus 1.5 dB. Now, the reason being, if you sit down to do the mastering stage, depends on the technique. Let's say when I do mastering, I use a lot of mid-side technique, and that tends to bring the vocals up, right? So I always request from the artist, please can you bounce it as a normal bounce and then minus 1.5 in the vocals and another one plus 1.5 in the vocals. That gives me the flexibility of using different mixes depending on the amount of vocal that I want to achieve at the final master, you know. So for example, if I work on the track and I know the vocals would need a little boost and I don't really want to do it via EQ, you know, because again, if you do it via EQ, you will affect not only vocals but also guitars, keys, etc., right? So if you have this flexibility of having a few mixes with a different balance, especially in the vocals, because vocals are the important part of the song, that way you can actually work them pretty well. If you are the engineer who mixed the track, that would stop you from going back to the mix. That's the worst thing you can do, is during your mastering stage, start going back to the mix. Why? Because you started tweaking different stuff as well. You started tweaking drums, you started tweaking bass, and all that kind of stuff. You don't need that, right? Once you finish with the mix, put it on the shelf, make those 3 bounces, and then in a week time, sit down to do your mastering session. The fourth difference between mixing and mastering is listening. So obviously you would have different, ideally you would have different speakers. You have far field speakers for your mastering, near field speakers for your mixing. Same with the headphones, you could use headphones in both the occasions. But also the way you listen to music, right? The way you listen to the song. During the mixing stage, you're focusing your attention on bass only, or drums only, or the kick, or the sound of the snare, or is there enough reverb on the snare, or you know, is there S's are fatiguing in the vocal section. During the mastering stage, you know, looking for any of this, right? You're looking for the general feel. You're looking for how the track reacts, how dynamic it is as a whole, you know, because you don't have the control of the bass, drums, etc., all the instruments. You're focusing on a different set of stuff during the mastering stage. Now, what I also advise, when you sit into the mastering, you have to relax your mind, right? You can't be that clinical. You know, during the mixing stage, it's often that you want to tweak that automation, you want to tweak that the bridge between whatever, right? During the mastering stage, you have to be more relaxed. I would say more relaxed about music. Know what you do by being familiar with the genre, okay, and also have the reference track. Okay, so let's recap here. There's 4 things that are different in mixing and mastering. The first one was the workflow, right? So the way you act within your DAW, all the tracks, separate tracks, one stereo track. The second one was the gear, right? The way you use the EQ, compression, limiting, etc. The third one was the mindset. The mindset where you just need to approach mixing differently, and you have to approach mastering completely different. Number 4, that was listening, right? The way you're going to listen, the way you, how relaxed you'll be during the mastering stage, and super focused during the mixing stage. Thanks for listening. I hope that was helpful. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe down below. If you want to learn more about mastering, please visit our website at audiounitygroup.com. If you want to learn more about mastering, or you want to learn the whole process of mastering, I actually got an online course where I teach all the stuff that I know about mastering, the processes, the ways to use different plugins, and it's all based on the free plugins, so you don't have to have any of the expensive plugins. Links down below. Please visit us, and I'll see you next time.